Hi, and welcome to another session of live chat with regards to puppets, dolls, and spirits. Okay, um, it's kind of unrelated, but whenever I think about dolls, I think about my childhood when every girl has a Barbie doll, and I used to remember my grandfather didn't let me play with dolls because he told me at that time because playing with dolls means you are silly and that you are wasting your time and that you should do um, something more constructive like play the piano, do my ballet classes, and study, right? So my relationship with my Barbie dolls became one that was like, oh, I want to play with you, but I shouldn't play with you. So with time, I started to, um, cut their hair, restyle their hair. But of course, it looked really bad. My Barbie dolls all looked butchered and things like that. And doing this episode on the paranormal zone made me think about this. I wonder whether at that time, without actually telling me that, without actually telling me that dolls could get possessed, my grandfather just forbade me to play once and for all, telling me that it was just a waste of time. You know how parents and grandparents, they kind of just protect you from the truth because you're too young to understand. So that's what kind of like brought back memories for me as I watched the episode with regards to my experiences in childhood with dolls. Okay, so let's go back to this episode. um, Haunted dolls or spirited puppets, or possessed toys is not something new for us. In fact, in fact, many of us have had, how do I say, um, such an experience. Not personally, but you've heard stories, and you've heard stories whereby, um, a doll's eye blinked, especially in the museums. People who go for their tours in museums, they have a tendency to always like think they saw something move or a statue move or a doll or a puppet move, but they just kind of brush it off because they just don't want to freak themselves out. It could have been true, you know. The doll or the puppet in the museum could have moved and could have responded to you and could have even blinked their eyes. Anyways, the point is, um, these things do happen. Personally, I've always thought it was just funny and it was just people with vivid imagination that would see a doll become alive, etc., etc. But as I did my research and read up a little bit more about haunted dolls and spirited puppets, etc., actually, I'm having a cough, so excuse me a little bit. So, where was I? Okay, so you have stories, that go as far back as centuries ago. Of course, you have the famous one, Annabelle, which the story goes about this little doll that gets possessed by a 7-year-old girl spirit, but eventually ended up to be possessed by a demon, and the demon was far from being a small 7-year-old girl, and eventually it was subdued by putting it in a holy water blessed display cabinet. And then you have stories that come from England, that come from Rome, that come from Italy, even Germany, and things like that. One particular one that I thought was quite interesting was the voodoo doll, that had a story from New Orleans. And apparently a woman bought this voodoo doll via eBay. Okay, so we're talking about quite current times. We're not talking about so far-fetched in history that it doesn't relate to us. eBay relates to us, right? Okay, so anyway, so she bought this doll, and the doll came in a box, right? A metal box to be specific. And then they said that there are clear instructions not to remove the doll from the box. But of course, the buyer was excited for her new doll, and then removed the doll from the box, and it started to attack her, haunt her, disturb her. um, and things like that. And then eventually the doll was given up to a ghost hunter, and unfortunately, based on the story, this lady who bought this voodoo doll, she had opened up the portals, or created the karma, so to speak, whereby even though she had given up the doll, the voodoo doll, to a ghost hunter, she was always susceptible and sensitive to dark spirits. Okay, so you have had, we have all heard stories from all over the world, literally, and despite that, when I was filming this episode in Jakarta and I was learning about the Jalangkong, I was still skeptical. In fact, to the very moment that we were filming at the cemetery, I was still skeptical because, um, how do I say it? Because, it's just, I mean, I am skeptical. Yeah. So, and I was like, okay, how real is this gonna be, right? And how much action are we going to get in, so that we can show the reality of the stories we have all heard about. And so what happened was, I was skeptical. I'm familiar with rituals. I'm familiar with offerings, which, during the program you saw them open a plastic bag and there were food things. It was offerings to the spirit, and also to appease any other wandering spirits in the cemetery. So that the rituals was fine, the prayer session was fine. I've seen a lot and I totally believe in it, and I think rituals are very powerful. Um, and then when they started the first round of the Jalangkong and it started to draw, to me I was like, okay, it's drawing, I get it, I see it. But then a part of me was still going, what's stopping these two guys from pushing the Jalangkong, which is basically the doll, the Jalangkong doll rests on a basket. It has a stick and then stuff like that. And then I was thinking, what's stopping them from pushing the Jalangkong towards the paper and, jerking it or moving it so that it writes, right? You would think like that. I would think like that. I did think like that. So, anyways, then so I was like, oh, okay. So and then it drew kind of things you could not make up. But Dr. Nozenki said that it was a face with a detached ear. And of course, it took a while for me to actually see it, to just look at it and allow my eye to be open and my mind to be open to kind of see the face and the detached ear, although it didn't come to me that clearly. So my skepticism said, okay, that's why I asked, can I participate? And the minute I participated, recited the calling rhyme or the calling lines for the spirit to come and take possession of the doll, the minute I started doing that, I told myself, okay, I am skeptical. I am even suspicious, to be really honest. I was even suspicious that the guys were pushing the doll forward. And I said, okay, I gotta appease myself. To be a host of a program like this, I can go in with as much skepticism as I want to have and judgments as I want to have, but it should not come in the way of me being a neutral and objective host, in order to provide the audience with the information for them to digest and have the wisdom on the subject matter. So I went objectively and I held onto the basket. And I was cheeky. The two other players had their hands this way and my hand went this way, right? So I kind of wiggled my fingers so that I had direct contact with the basket and that their hands were under mine, okay? So that's why I said that I was very certain that there was no manipulation of the doll, because my hands were actually holding the base, which was a basket. So then the minute the spirit possessed the doll was the moment that I was convinced. It was the moment that told me, yes, it happens. the stories that we have heard happened. And the weight just sat on my hand. There was an obvious increase in weight. And when the doll moved forward to draw that straight line, I could not only feel the transfer of weight of the doll moving forward, I also could feel the vibration of the pen as I had described. Well, so that for me was a moment that went, oh, all that skepticism just went out the window because it was real. What I experienced was real. The doll moved. My hands were literally, holding the basket with the two other players' hands under my hand. So I was convinced there was no foul play or manipulation, shall you say. And I was convinced. And from that moment, I understood thoroughly why people still believed in the dolls and getting possessed and getting the spirits entering puppets. And from that moment also, I believed when people say, hey, I think, at the corner of my eye, I saw that doll move, or I felt something in the room with all those dolls. you know, in the past I would say, yeah, vivid imagination, you're just messing with yourself. But now I don't say that anymore because I have literally first-hand experience feeling the spirit come into the doll and taking control of the doll and actually doing something to prove to me the spirit came. Okay, so then of course, with the Jalangkong in specific, as you heard and learned from the episode, it was originally to entertain children in order to entice them or encourage them to learn mathematics. Because Dr. Nozenki explained to me that there is a symmetric, there is symmetry. Got that word right. There is symmetry in the way of the dimensions and angles of the dolls, the structure in order to put the doll. So I was okay with that. But after I witnessed how the Jalangkong took a really long time to even draw that straight line, and that the first picture was something that was hard to understand. For example, the face and the disassociated ear. I find it a little bit, I would imagine that one of the uses of the Jalangkong, which was to give you a medical diagnosis many, many decades ago when medicine was not available or not available at the level that we know today, they had used Jalangkong to tell the patient or the sick person what was wrong. So I can imagine, given my experience with the Jalangkong myself, it would have taken a really long session in order for the Jalangkong to write what was wrong with a person. And I would imagine that it is not the way we would expect, like this person is having diabetes, etc., or cancer or something. I don't think it would be specific like what we would expect a doctor to write. I think it would be more symbolic and maybe with certain words. More importantly, I think it would write or draw the area of a person that is, the area that is sick. And I would imagine it would be a very long session, given that it took so long just to draw one line and things like that. What I found to be also very curious, what I was very curious about was also the simple fact of why until today people still practice this, and I think one of the majority of the cases that you read about is basically dolls used, or puppets, effigies used in order to cast curses and spells. Because from what I understand, curses and spells don't just fly off, the curse of the witch or the bomo or the black magic doctor or something. It doesn't just fly off and smack you in the face. And I think sometimes there are certain curses and certain spells that kind of need to um, stay a while around in order to kill you, in order for the curse to take effect and damage you. Um, so, as I was saying, hold on. So many a times the curse needs to be planted into something, and I guess that a doll, a puppet, would be the most effective and practical way to cast a spell. And I think there seems to be a internet issue. Hold on. Uh, oh, okay. Um, all right. So, well, on my side, I mean, I'm glad. Thank you, guys, for confirming you can hear and see me, because um, all I see is the thing going round and round. But never mind. Okay, great. Let me see. What do we have? We have some questions. In Asia, have you discovered if there were voodoo-like users of dolls? Yes. Okay. I think voodoo is a very oh God, I think I am not going to get this right. I'm geographically retarded. Um, Voodoo is something that is a common term used in like New Orleans or places influenced by, I don't know if I'm correct to say this, maybe South America or the Caribbean. It's a very voodoo is like, okay, it reminds me of Pirates of the Caribbean, okay? So the voodoo term. And basically voodoo means black magic. So similarly, to answer your question, yes, in Asia, I do know, not that it was covered in my program, but I do know that there are people who use dolls, and they get the hair of their victim and they wrap it around the doll, and then they pierce it with needles, and then this person gets afflicted, gets feels the spell or the curse. Can I sing the Triops Has Three Eyes song? Sorry, I don't know that song. Don't know, sorry. Anyways, okay, so I don't know. Those of you who are watching, do you know, or have you heard any stories? Hopefully not yours personally, but perhaps somebody you know as a friend who may have experienced this. Any doll getting possessed or cursed in order to cause them harm. Um, Sometimes we come across friends who may be victims of this kind of curses and spells. Like I said, it's a practical and efficient way to get you using a doll or a puppet, or even something that you don't even hold to hug to sleep. It could be something that's in your house in the form of a doll or a puppet. And um, also another thing I learned is when a curse is actually casted onto a doll or a puppet, it's actually harder for detect. It's speak English, speak English. I sound like a cursed doll myself now. It's harder to detect because um, everybody has decorations and collections when you travel, and sometimes you bring back a statue, sometimes you bring back a doll, sometimes you bring back something, and you kind of just place it somewhere, and it's easy to forget. And sometimes you just don't even, it becomes so part of your home that you don't realize it, which is why sometimes these dolls, when they get to become the vehicle to carry a curse that is directed at you, it's harder to find, it's harder to detect. At times like that, I highly recommend um, that the victim or the person who's affected, that they, whatever is their faith, that they get some prayers or some rituals done in their home, um, in order to clear that space. And sometimes if a master comes to do this space clearing or blessing of the environment, space, your home, your office, sometimes they will pick up the evil spirit that's lurking around in the door. Okay. Also, um, you need to explain to the master certain parts of the house where you feel more affected than normal. For example, if you have something in your living room, you could feel more affected or more disturbed when you're there and less when you're in the kitchen. These are little things that you will pick up, okay? It's very scary if you should become a victim of such a curse, but don't let the fear block your rational thinking. Don't let the fear make you not find help, okay? Um, it's very important that such things are removed from your life. Don't be obsessed with finding out who did it to you. Be more um, constructive and positive to get rid of it, and then continue to practice whatever spiritual or religious path you have in order to continue to protect yourself. Because once you have been a victim of such a curse, may it be voodoo, black magic, or whatnot, um, a part of you weakens. You can say your chakra weakens, your aura weakens, your strength, your spirit weakens, and sometimes even your mind and emotions weaken. So you need to have a consistent practice in order for you to strengthen and build yourself up, build back up your resilience, build back up your defense against such negative forces coming towards you. Because once you have been um, affected, uh, you are more susceptible and sensitive to that. Okay, so what else do we have? I heard some friends who said they know people who went to Thailand and may have been victims. When they got back to Australia, they felt they need to go back to Thailand. Okay, this is not uncommon. I have heard this many times. In fact, Thailand, these dolls are very popular. In fact, when I was filming in Thailand, they all have some kind of dolls, and some of them are given the names, um, what is it, Lukti or something like that, and they actually look like little children. Some of them look like little children. Some of them may even be in the form of animals and stuff. Yes, Thailand is very popular for this kind of dolls, and especially dolls, and they're kind of childlike dolls, and they're supposed to bring good luck, especially to business, to shops and retail shops. They're supposed to lure customers in. Now, yes, as a business owner, that sounds good. Lure customers it means business. Business means money, revenue, sales, and which means profit, because the shop is not free. You need to pay rent. So similarly, let's just be logical about this. If that doll can call you into a shop, it can also therefore call you back to Thailand, right? Makes sense, doesn't it? So, I know friends who who found a good master in Thailand, and they continuously go back, and they have faith, and they have had good luck. Their wishes have been granted. So that's the positive side. I have also had friends that when they come back from Thailand, like you said, they seem to feel like wanting to go back in a not so comfortable way. Um, Meaning, like, there could have been a spell. Now, I don't wish to disrespect any practices of Thailand, because I know that in all practices, all religions, there is always the good and sometimes the less good, or shall we say, commercial. And normally, when it becomes commercial, you can be assured that the purity, um, or the purity and the power of the blessing is reduced, because commercial intentions is never pure in the sense of just giving blessings. Yeah. Um, this is what I would recommend if the person that you're mentioning does not have a religion, other than the fact that maybe they should or not, it doesn't matter, I'm not to say. But if they don't have a religion, first question is, did they buy anything? Um, did they did they buy anything from Thailand to bring back to Australia? Did they buy a pendant, a ring, any ornament, or any item which can be a doll as well, or something decorative, something that they thought, oh, it's just for decoration, in the form of a statue, in the form of a doll, in the form of a, I don't know, it could be anything, okay? If your friends had brought back something from Thailand and they don't have a religion, so they don't have a place to go to clear it, then I would say yes, correct. Normally, you need to bring back something, an item, a solid item, and this item should be removed from your home and removed from your space. Um, if it's okay, so obviously your friend is not comfortable going back to this girl who gave her something to bring back to Australia. Now, sometimes when you step into a temple, it's not necessarily that you are going to become and pick up that faith. Sometimes you just go into a temple because a temple or a holy place is just to experience the purity and the peace of the space. And it's not about stepping into that place and you have to follow that religion. It's not like that. That's not how it should be. Um, Basically, this is what I'm going to say. Um, yes, some black magic or some spells are powerful enough to travel across countries, across oceans. Just like technology, as we get better with technology, so do these spells. Yeah, that's life. Um, what I recommend is to identify this item that was given to your friend who brought it back to Australia. I would say that I don't know what it is. It could be a ring. If it's a ring, then it would be quite easy to dispose of. If it's a statue that apparently has any blessings, then I would say go try to find a Thai temple. Try to find a Thai temple in Australia and donate this so-called statue to the temple. Okay, that's one way. But whatever is the item that your friend wishes to dispose of, when the act of disposal is taking place, whether it is donating it to a temple or disposing it, be very clear in your mind and be very clear in your heart that you are releasing it because you never wanted it, and that you were misinformed, and that whatever is there is not something you want. You were misinformed, and this item was given to you not at your will or at your asking, and that you ask that they release and go away. Just say this, like it's like a conversation whereby you are back in charge, and you are telling this item that is coming perhaps with some energy that's disturbing, that you no longer want it, you never wanted it, it was given to you, you were misinformed, okay? And that you wish to release it, and that you no longer want it. I highly recommend that your friend finds a Thai temple to dispose of whichever item this is, whether it's a statue, a ring, or pendant, or whatever. I would recommend to go to a Thai temple to dispose of this, simply because you do not want to offend that energy as well. Yeah. Okay, I hope that helps. I hope that helps. If you need anything else, feel free to email me. Okay, my email is okay. You can email me and just let me know if it helps, or maybe you want to tell me whether what the item is. Then maybe I can be more specific to assist. All right, great. I think we are going to call this session to an end this evening. And it was nice, very nice to have you guys tune into the live chat. And I hope that those who watched the live stream episode of Puppets, Dolls, and Spirits, you enjoyed it and gained some knowledge about this. And hopefully my live chat also added information to you. And don't forget to join me next week, Thursday, for the live stream episode of Ghost Marriages, which I filmed in Taiwan, also from season 4. Don't miss it, because season 4 is currently unavailable except on my live streaming. Okay? And then, of course, subsequently, live chat on Ghost Marriages. So until next Thursday, you guys take care. Always be conscious of your environment. Don't get involved in anything that seems rah-rah, wee-wee, woo-woo, woo-woo, doo-doo. If it doesn't feel right, it's not right. Do not practice anything you don't understand. Like my guru always says, always do your due diligence. Always make sure that you're in the right place, learning from the right person. Actually, you got to trust yourself. You got to trust your instinct and trust your gut. Don't get absorbed into commercial spirituality, so that you don't get involved into anything you cannot see and you cannot handle. All right, so take care, everybody. Be smart. Don't just follow anything and believe everything you see. Like I always say, what we see may not be real, and what is real we may not see. Good night.